When you are when you listen to your ancestors, you inherit what they successfully obtained, and they cultivated it for you, really, for you to inherit, and you inherit it, and you use it, whatever you inherited, wisely and with discretion, and you go to church, and you are a good provider for your family. Your wife reflects your virtue, and you live a fruitful life, and you work hard, and you want your children to surpass you, but you teach them and you instruct them, so that way when you instruct your children, you teach them about the world, you discipline them when you need to, and you let them bear the yoke when they're young under you. You're helping and guiding them and molding them into being put together, principled people. And you don't, even when they're children, you don't, it's not necessarily that you talk to them like they're adults, but you don't belittle them for being children. You have expectations for them, and you expect them to be able to succeed, and through osmosis, being around you and other adults and looking up to you, they reflect those qualities. And even when they're adults and they have children, they might still come to you for advice or wisdom, and your grandchildren do that. I think that's what being an elder is, or that's what it should be when you're an elder. It's like being like a patriarch in your family, and that's where the respect should come from. You have so much experience, to where all this information you have, because you have all this experience, you know how to navigate all this information. You have a great intuition, and I think this is where your wisdom comes from. Wisdom is not just knowledge, because knowledge can be misapplied, it can be misused. Wisdom is something different than just knowledge, because it's something that you can partake of. You can be wise, you can be unwise, but even foolish people can kind of steal knowledge and use it for perverted ends. And it just so happens that we don't really have elders anymore, because a lot of America has been like people immigrating over here and not even like assimilating, because they're still fraternizing with people that look like them. Like if they're Catholics, like they didn't become WASPs, they didn't become Protestants, they still stuck to their church, refusing to assimilate into the country properly. But nevertheless, like moving here and disrespecting their family traditions, and being hotshots, leaving their home countries to find success here. They moved here to find like a different life, while still staying the same, and not conforming to the culture of America, carving out little ethnic enclaves. So there's irregular, probably dysfunctional families. Like I would imagine that like Asian families that come to America, they are probably worse in America than they are even in their own countries, and that's not counting the real like backwards, rural, drowning female babies, like cannibalism. I'm not talking about that, but I just mean like Asians have like really just non-whites when they come to America. I don't mean to make this about race. They're children. I mean, what tradition are they really inheriting? They're just inheriting like their family traumas. So it's like their elders. The only elders that they have to look up to are people that fled their own countries and like care about money. Basically, they're greedy. So what does that do to their children? And that's so much of America. And then what for whites? It's been like making the establishment anti-establishment. So it's just the establishment like killing itself. The status quo is destroying the status quo. It's I mean, even whites, they stopped going to church and they started fraternizing, joining like Masonic lodges and secret orders, being money hungry. There's no tradition in that, and a lot of people's idea of tradition is like, the heck off, commie, 1950s like nuclear family that does not include the extended family or even the community, and you see those bits of like these supposedly hyper traditional people who want to live off the grid. The reason they want to live off the grid is like super anti-traditional because they resent the wider population. They think the wider population are stupid, dysgenic mulattoes. That's what they think the wider population is, and they hate the wider population. They hate society. They don't want to make their community a better place, and they're manic romanticists who want to practice polygamy in the woods. How trad really is that? Like, are those really Western values, or is that something, some syncretist Hindu religion that's been like imported here in like the 1960s, that's like masked as like some Indo-Aryan revivalism? So people, there are no elders in our society because all our elders are people who broke away from what their families traditionally did to inhabit America and to be productive in America and to chase the bag, and to reach Promethean heights, completely money hungry, and like making the bad parts of their culture even worse, right? So if they do really stand for family values, like the Mexicans supposedly do, it's probably really toxic and extremely conditional, like backwards, the way people thought like 1,000 years ago, just a complete revival of pagan consciousness. And if it's not, and besides that, the people who want to restore traditionalism because there is this lack of elders passing down tradition, and they want to do it themselves. They do it in such an artificial way. It looks like a cult. These trad people are like cultists. They want like a brain dead woman, and they want to screw off from society instead of trying to make society better because they're black pilled, So they want luxuries that even a lot of normal people probably didn't even have, like, for a while. None of those things are conducive to making a good society at all. A lack of elders and a lack of tradition often becomes brute forcing something and trying to achieve things with your own willpower, but you lack foresight and you don't know what the consequences are going to be a couple generations down the line. Jesus will use you as like a proxy to make other people's lives better. You don't have to focus so much on, you can be politically convicted for sure. You can have political convictions, you can have opinions. I'm not telling you to be a normie or to shut your brain off at all. You can definitely feel strongly about what's happening in the world, but it's not helpful to want an immediate solution to things, especially when you realize, like, providentially God let people be born in this terrible society. These people, when they don't have elders really in their life, they don't have tradition that can make them evenly tempered and react to things in a normal way. They don't have that, and so they feel a lot more competent and confident in themselves than they should be, and so their belief systems often reflect this, where they think that they're very Promethean people. They have very worldly interests, like maybe in cryptocurrency and like the gig economy. They think that they're better than other people, and even though they're traditional, the religion that they follow is very like syncretist, perennialist. A lot of incorporations of like Nietzschean Evola vitalism and scientific prowess. There's not a lot of room left for like a healthy mysticism. That's not very traditional, and the end result is such a they have imbalanced perspectives on healthy sexuality, on the execution of justice, because they do think that people should just be murdered in droves. They're against Bill Gates, but they basically have the same mindset as Bill Gates. They have really stupid ways of perceiving success, like what success in this world actually looks like. A lot of Gen X people are like cry bullies. They're very childish, and they don't want to be like their boomer parents, even though they're just as gullible as them. They really want to do everything in their power to not be like that, so they made conscious efforts to stop going to church, to decry everything that came before them. And even boomers did that. Boomers literally did that as well. Even if it was less explicit, because they paid lip service to their upbringings, they were still the people who lived these like new lifestyles, where they became very materially successful, and then they gave less to the generation after, which is just not that's antithetical to tradition. Like Italian Americans, like a lot of the Browns, they're not traditional people. They really went against what their parents probably would have wanted. It's just been a degeneration, more and more and more, until now. But my generation especially, like we were raised by cry bullies, by age regressed pop culture fiends who watch the news like all day, who voted for the dumbest things that have negatively impacted us. War hungry people, like they want a war. They want the economy to be made better through crisis liberalism. You can have like a Gen X parent, and they can go to the store and they can just completely loathe going to Walmart because they see like they literally see like a black person or something, and they go totally nuts. But they swear that they're not racist because they like metal music or something. Like it's just so childish. America is such a childish country. And as a kid, when you're around that, and you become opinionated, because we're in the age of technology, uh, and there's more of an effort even now, amongst teenagers to like try to find people just as opinionated as them. The rise of like these like clean shaven campus conservatives and whatnot. There's like a cult, like a Peter Pan cult of Gen Z that wants to surpass and castrate the father. The father is impotent. The father is stupid and blinded by his own greed and gluttony and hang-ups. His estate is vulnerable. There's so many holes in the system because everything is so bureaucratic that there's so many blind spots, and society is not a collaborative effort. It's a bunch of individuals, and there's a social contract that people agree to. So it's all about the triumph of the will. It's all about succeeding. It's all about not losing your spark because of the people around you. And young people, such as myself, we hated our parents and we wanted to outsmart them. We were not obedient. We followed our own discretion and had really disproportionate interests. Our idea of politics, of justice, reflects this, because a lot of it is turned into entertainment for us. Maybe it warrants its own video topic, but like the lack of respecting titles because of the greed of the generations before us, and the infantilism just completely killing our society. The institutions, the pedigree, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. The title of judge, the title of police officer or law enforcement, that doesn't matter anymore. A lot of that stuff doesn't matter because there's so much injustice that is just casually allowed in our society, because these people, they rebelled against their families and their traditions to go their own way, and to be successful their own way. So much irregularity and marginality was like allowed in our society, and the result is that there's so much not just economic disparity between people, but social disparity. There's so much cliques, people benefiting people like them and not for the good of all people. Far from just like Masonic lodges of old, but like it's trickled into every aspect of society. Workplace drama, cliques, competitiveness. People really just don't care about you if you're not in their tribe. Titles don't mean anything anymore. If you're a judge, it doesn't matter. If you're law enforcement, it doesn't matter. If you're a professor, if you have a PhD, it doesn't matter. There's so many people that have these really long, excruciating careers where they're surrounded by very intelligent people for the sole purpose of having tenure. There's so many people who hate children, who don't have children of their own, who become part of the Board of Ed, the Board of Education. There's people who become police officers because they're literally sociopaths. There's people who hate children who become teachers. They hate children and they're teachers. Why are you a teacher? Why are you working in a school with other kids when you literally hate kids? When you perceive that as a kid, you stop respecting titles. You stop respecting like the law. And you know what? And I think anarchy is stupid. I really, but I used to believe in like holding like kangaroo courts for like drug addicts, executing them. That's the stuff I used to believe in, and it's because I didn't my ideas of justice were perverted, for the reason I talked about before. but also because the examples of people who are supposed to they're given the right to execute justice, they're total buffoons. They're children, and they're older. So it's like with my ideas of justice being perverted because I don't have like a like a mentor. I'm not. I don't understand the value of like, even if somebody commits a crime that is terrible, you're gonna extend your mercy to them because you've lived long enough to where you have the discretion to know whether you should do that or not. All I see is just fix a problem, right? I don't understand patience, and so I believe in kangaroo courts and bullying and casual misanthropy and just immediately fixing the problem, utilitarianism, without understanding what that does on the spiritual level. And a lot of young people are exactly like that. The most popular people for the youth right now are people who are desensitized. They don't believe in the law. They don't believe in the state. They don't believe that justice is something that has to be sanctioned. Usually traditionally, you grow up and you cultivate enough clout and respect under your name so that people can come to you when a problem needs to be solved, and you're the one that deals with that. Or you go through this rigorous thing, and you're given the title, so that way not everybody can just fix the problem and it's just total chaos. People are so desperate for problems to be fixed that they'll turn to anything, and it makes things worse, because it becomes a form of idolatry, thinking that you yourself are self-sufficient enough to and intelligent enough, and not someone who does completely change on a whim. You think that you're confident enough in yourself with the little experience you have to make a potentially life-changing decision. Your friend makes a really bad mistake, and instead of extending mercy, you just see a problem that needs to be solved, and so you expose him to a bunch of other people, and you ruin his life. Potentially, you ruin his chances of getting a job, and you think that you solved a problem, but if you were older, you were wiser, you would know that that's not the right thing to do, and you could have called him to repentance without having to put the stove on him, right? You don't have somebody who's wiser than you settle this issue. You take it upon yourself, and it's chaos if everybody thinks of themselves in that way, when there's no hierarchy. And now to talk about becoming a man, like to go back earlier when I was talking about, like, I suffered from all these afflictions, and I wanted to take matters into my own hands, and I didn't see, because I was around so many incompetent adults, I didn't see the need to humble myself and to not make really big decisions. Like if someone was disciplining me, I saw it as like an attack on my ego, and not literally for my benefit, to help purge something within me. I didn't, or correct me and put me on the right path. I didn't see it as that. I took great offense to it, and it really hurt my decision making, and it stopped me from working really hard, and in that way I was regressed. And really, the main thing is just I didn't want to be held accountable. I was so sure of myself that I did not want to be held accountable, because if I was held accountable, that would mean that I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I won't be able to do the things that I want, and justify them. And I did learn that I had to be humble and I had to be obedient. It was excruciating to really work hard and make an effort to not be selfish, to actually be helpful to other people, not according to what my own perspective of what being helpful was, which was really only self-serving. That was extremely hard for me to do, and it meant that I had to actually be more careful about the things I would do and the things I would say. I couldn't just badmouth somebody and then justify it, you know. I would be held accountable, and I think that's what being a man is. Being a man is being held accountable, and a lot of people don't want to become men. They want to stay boys. When you're a boy, you don't know much. You don't know a lot about the world, and you're not really held accountable fully. And then when you become a man, you are held accountable, and you have to be responsible. But the payoff is it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling to follow your duty and to endure and to be harsh on yourself for other people's sake. A lot of people now who are Gen Z are afraid of being accountable. You know, they're afraid of being judged, and they're afraid of there being weight behind what they say, because that's masculine. And so it goes both ways, where people, they want to be smart, they want to be intelligent, they want to be successful, but they don't want the weight, the accountability of being a man that comes with that. It's they're not boys who become men. They're boys in the position of men, essentially. And you see it in aesthetics. There's a lot of people that are afraid of confronting their own mortality. They want to be clean shaven. They want to be androgynous. You know, they want to be petite, and they want to look safe in front of the female gaze, because if they had a beard and they were registered by other people as if they were being perceived by other people as men, then their actions would look a lot more reprehensible. So they don't want that. This new generation, they're super ironic, they're super catty, they're super effeminate, because they want to be perceived as boys and not men. Because if they were exposed as men, you would see just how perverted, disgusting, conniving, and licentious this generation is. I think another thing that could be contributing to this is the idea of adolescence that we have now. We don't have a healthy, concrete, maybe religious transformation from being a boy to being a man. So you just have this big gradient, basically. Even if you stop developing mentally at age 40 or whatever, you know what? You still are able to pick up on really complex problems, even if you're not able to fully understand the repercussions or consequences of them, because you haven't lived that long. You're at least aware of them in a way like a little kid isn't, and that's enough to where you should be held accountable when you do something bad. People confuse being merciful to someone at that age making a mistake with outright not caring about what they do at that age. And that is a serious problem. You wouldn't shame a kid and bring the existential hammer down upon him. You wouldn't do that. But you would do that to an 18-year-old. This is really what I want to say, is this generation, my generation, we do not believe in respect. We do not believe in anything sacred. We do not believe in a hierarchy. We believe you can do something or you can't do something. So we don't believe in respect. We don't respect people's titles anymore. We are a vicious, backbiting generation. We hate adults because the adults in our lives have been largely incompetent and selfish, and so we have less parental guidance, so we become our own parents, and we do it as children. And because we do it as children, we don't see the need to grow up, because we become self-sufficient as children. We do not become adults. We do not become transformed as adults, because we're already sufficient enough as children. We do not believe in pedigree or like a virtuous meritocratic aristocracy. We don't believe in that. We believe in brute populism and cultural subversion. We don't believe in being part of a culture. We believe in fully embodying the culture ourselves individually. We believe in succeeding through vice. We are very passionate, but because we do not want to be held accountable like adults, we feign. We're constantly feigning. We have cognitive dissonance, and we mask ourselves with irony. We speak cryptically. We do not submit to an elder. Instead, we seek the counsel of people like us in cliques and groups. We plot against other people, and our idea of politics, we do not have a solid idea of statescraft or how to build a good country or what a good community looks like. Instead, we believe in fraternizing. We literally believe in fraternizing, subversion, gangsterism. There's a reason rap music, gangster rap, is so big. There's a reason drill music is so big amongst the youth, and how a lot of the gang culture that's associated with drill music is like inspired by crypto Judaism and Freemasonry, things that are not conducive to building a good society and actually helping your community, but the opposite, being at odds with the larger society, not seeking to transform the society, but working against it and inherently assuming, like ideologically or religiously, that society is unfixable and you can only take advantage of it. That is the occultism of gang culture that has infected our youth and clouded our minds. And while I would say that affects predominantly black or maybe Hispanic children, for white kids, it's not much better, where they follow basically the same thing if they're into Nick Fuentes, how popular really is he? Maybe I'm a bit out of touch at this point because I'm not really on social media in the same way that I was before. I still am, definitely, but I don't really know how popular he is now. But I do know that a big appeal to him was exactly what I'm talking about, this youth rebellion where the old decrepit society with all these titles that don't mean anything anymore, that means that we can have this kangaroo court idea of justice and have unqualified young people lacking experience seize at opportunities to execute justice, and to just bring people together rapidly, without any wisdom or virtue, uniting everybody under the same banner through brute force and assumed camaraderie that isn't real. And people, the thing that stops people from just absolutely devouring each other is like the fact that everybody's ironic about what they believe in, so they're not fully held accountable for what they believe in. And if there's people in a single group and they believe in vastly different things, they won't hold each other accountable, because they're ironic about it. We are afraid of our mortality. We're afraid of the future. We are afraid of judgment. And so we try to look as young as possible. And we also try to step away from manhood as much as possible by embracing androgyny. I mean, it's not even something that's really specific to the left-wing crowd anymore, because I think a lot of people do that. A lot of people try to be androgynous now, or maybe are sexually into it, because once again, it's like when you're a man and you're older, you have facial hair, you're hairy. That means that you've lived long enough to know what you're doing. So when you do something bad, that looks really bad because it's like you know better. So that makes your crime more reprehensible. But if you can remain clean shaven, and you can look kind of petite, you can look more effeminate, then it looks less bad if you're like a creep. And instead of being a man and being held accountable, and then taking joy in your duty, and becoming better through discipline, and really cultivating things for other people, that betters your community. These people, they don't know how to do that, so they can't better their community. So all they can really do is just be vultures and eat corpses, with like-minded freaks, becoming more and more at odds with like other people. It's all competition. It's all gangsterism. That's really what I lament. This is really what I lament as a young person, is that being like part of the Peter Pan cult, wanting to read as much as possible, know as much about the world without having to be beholden or obedient ultimately to a higher power, but I mean mainly to like an adult in my life, because I was resentful. And I'm faced with tragedy now. It's the way that I deal with it is so emotionally unregulated, and it's hard for me to pick up the pieces of my life without discipline. And it's something that I'm learning very slowly now, because it wasn't something that I was brought up with. And while going to church is helping, for sure, it's it'll be probably a long time before that's something I can have a good grip on. But I know one of the best things that you can do is to one of the big like takeaways is to just be skeptical of why you feel the way you do about stuff. If it's the right thing for you to do, look at the fruits of what you're doing. Look at your failures, and like look at the root cause of those failures, and see that it's because of like your impatience. Don't be ironic at all. A lot of people, they want to be ironic, and laugh and jest all the time, and that's really a way of dulling their conscience and not actually feeling bad about what they're doing. Stop laughing and just seriously evaluate yourself and see how lost you are. and you know, you need to repent. I don't blame anybody in my generation for being so lost and feeling like they have to take matters into their own hands in a really haphazard way. But I mean, you're being used one way or another. Like, whether you're being used by like a dying ideology that needs purposeless men as foot soldiers, like in Africa, they have these like sexless Muslim men just rape and pillage. Like, you know, either you're that, or something like a bodiless like egregore is like feasting on you. Like, even if you're not being manipulated by a tangible person, there is a demonic entity that is like making you do this, making you sterile, spreading the idea that the son has to castrate the father and usurp him, and reign as a boy king, tyrant, who exerts justice and indulges in pleasure at his own discretion, tearing down the barriers of the sacred and removing the novelty of the sacred and making it commonplace, appointing the lay people in the highest positions of society. It cannot be like this. It is destroying us. It is destroying our youth. This is why people are becoming progressively more antisocial. This is why there's rampant sexual immorality and sodomy. This is why licentiousness is such a big problem, and just absolute insane sexual depravity, whether in real life or just in like online chat rooms being turned into brothels, and blackmail and all these things that are just life ruining. It's literally destroying our country. It's going to be really bad if if the powers that be have now think that we're psyoped enough that they can use us for something. Now we're ready. I don't know what that's going to be, but I know it's going to be really bad, and I hope that that doesn't happen. I hope it's a big nothing burger. This is what our forefathers did. Funnily enough, we're trying so hard to not be like our parents, and funnily enough, we're repeating the sins of our ancestors. It's history repeating itself again. This is why people joined Masonic lodges. This is why people moved into countries and didn't assimilate into them properly, and had mobs and sold alcohol during the Prohibition. This is why people opened up casinos. This is why this is literally the Illuminati. It's absolutely terrible. Is this fraternizing, this synagogue of Satan? It is antithetical to the church, and so I would say, go to church. Go to a church. Repent. Turn to Jesus Christ, the triune God, the Holy Trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one essence, three persons. There's no other God other than Jesus Christ, who is Jehovah of the Old Testament. Jesus Christ was not a Gentile; he was a Jew. And yeah, I mean, that's what you have to believe in. Go to church. And I'm sorry, this is mainly towards men, but I suppose it can apply to women as well. I'm not really equipped to speak on women's issues. Maybe there's some other channel. I'll have a woman on soon. She'll make a video for you, okay? But I think that's really what I want to say. Thanks for watching this video. It's gonna be really disjointed. I'm gonna have to edit it. Anyway, bye.